October of 1960 through May of 1963 on station, John stopped down. Made that in second gun battalion, 30th Field Artillery, which was a 280 outfit. For a while, I was a unit driver. What happens, you have a winch and a hoist up here. The A unit driver gets out and mounts that and raises these forks. He gets back in the unit, backs it into the gun. The cannoneers take the hoist and put this section under that hook right there. And the same thing happens with the B unit. The sergeant will be standing in the middle and raise both hands like so, and that means for the A unit driver and B unit driver to take the gun up. Now, when it's up in the air, the A unit only pitches. In other words, it'll go this way, up and down in the bumps or ditches. But it won't rock from side to side. The B unit had like a U-joint. It could move in any direction when the gun's sitting still. But it only takes 19 degrees to turn this gun over. So you had to be very careful, especially at night. I don't know why they put headlights on it, because you don't use them at night under combat situations. And the A unit driver controlled the accelerator and the brakes on the B unit. They communicated with helmets that had a microphone receiver plugged into the unit up in the truck. This thing has a 600 horsepower Continental air-cooled engine. It's got an Allison transmission, which was built by GM. The engine has 6-mile automatic 3-speed. With the gun up, it can cruise about 50 miles an hour on the highways or on the autobahns. Without the gun, the unit's probably about 70 miles an hour. On the freeways, the B unit has a hard time seeing. But on the freeways or the autobahns, we'd be going along there and we'd want to flank the gun. So the B unit driver would ease out here, gun slung in the middle, 50 miles an hour down the autobahn. You can just imagine what the Germans thought, But the A unit is the only unit to carry a spare tire. It's got a 100-gallon fuel tank, burning gasoline. It got about 5 miles to the gallon, and sometimes a little less. If we were out on border patrol, we had to refuel quite often, because most of the time we set up on top of mountains. This gives us a little extended range on fire. And with these things screaming, you can hear them about a mile or two away. So our life expectancy wasn't more than 1 round that we were going. Should we'd be firing during the war. I guess that's about all I can tell you about it. It seats 4 people, A unit and B unit. And the A unit was the A unit driver, the artillery mechanic, the cannoneer, and the section chief. And when we were out at night and got off the main tank trails and go to a hard stand, the section chief would get out and walk in front of you and steer you with a flashlight, usually either with a red lens or an arrow. Okay?
See his name.
Yeah, right. Tell us some kind of scary film that daughter back here. Yeah, tell them one way you want to get back in there and see it. So this guy.
Bob Pennell was associated with this thing from about June of 1960 until about January of '63. I worked just about every position on the cannon. The main job I guess I had was B unit driver. About following guys like Johnny was really tough in this thing, because a lot of times you couldn't see where you were going or what was going on ahead of you. You just had to rely on what the guy ahead of you was doing and being sure that he knew what he was doing. Communications was through a intercom hooked up between the two units through the gun. If that ever went out, you had to rely on hand signals to tell you what gear to get in with the gun or the unit. At night, if you couldn't see the hand signals, you just relied on what you felt. If you feel a thing buck, you know he went to a lower gear, so you had to go down to get to that lower gear. You're going up, you could feel it, the slack off on it, you grab the next gear higher and go with that. Unit operates basically the same as Johnny said the A unit does. You got the forks that you raise and lower the gun with. They operate basically the same way. The only difference, you don't have the winches on the B unit and stuff like that you have in the A unit. Once you set the gun up in firing position, the B unit pulled out, got clear, and then they pulled the tube in the battery on it with the A unit, and the B unit driver more or less became a cannoneer. Other than that, the only thing I can think of, it was basically the B unit driver's job to guide the gun wherever you were going. The A unit driver got his end of it around, but it was the B unit driver's job to get the gun around wherever you were going. I can think of several times when we were going up little narrow roads and everything. One time in particular, this farmer had a dilapidated old wooden barn out beside the road, and we took the corner out of that thing. The next year we come up there, and he had a nice brick barn out there and waving us over towards his house. So it was times when it was real tough to get it where you were going, but we always managed to do it somehow. That's about all I can think of to tell about this.
Everything you can think of. And again, who you are, what you did, what years, basis.
How you love General.
Dennis Hubbleson from Indianapolis, Indiana, and I became associated with the 280 millimeter cannon in December of 1960. My primary job was to drive the section truck that maintained the equipment to clean and service the 280 millimeter cannon. I also had a 30 kW generator mounted on the back of the truck because the 280 was totally electric at this time. You could unwrap the cable, and on the other side you had a junction box where you plug the cable up to make it fully electrical. My job was to maintain power to the gun at all times so they can operate various mechanisms without having to do it by hand. This would be these switches here to lower and elevate the tube. This one way back here is a power ram. Push it, power ram it, reverse it. This here was electrical linear, which had a long cord collected the charge for the print cartridge to initially set the powder charges off. If you didn't maintain power and equal balance of your nitrogen, this thing had such a powerful recoil that one time another gun was firing. The recoil in the tube stuck back and tore up all the loading tray. So it was very dangerous operation. My job basically was to maintain all the tools and tire changing tools and everything to maintain this cleaning service. A 5-ton truck that carried the ammunition that was separate. We had to keep the powder and the rounds separate. The 5-ton truck had a 2.5-ton hoist to hoist the round out of the truck. We had a 2-wheel cart to push the round over to the gun and hoist it up into the loading tray. That's about it.
You want anything about a reunion or anything that somebody might know? But you'd rather have documentary, right?
Anything you guys want to talk about.
Well, what about the time we turned the gun over?
That's great. So you start off with that. What about the time we turned the gun over?
Okay, well, this was 1961, about September, October. The dead center jewels on this gun, on the units, is about 10 feet. The road crown, little dirt road was traveling down, it was built up on a bank. The crown of the road was only 8 feet. So that meant that the side jewels were hanging off on both units. And the roadway gave away on the B unit. And there was myself and 3 other people in the A unit, the driver, and also 3 other people in the B unit. The driver yelled out, "We're turning over." And we all proceeded out the driver's side of the A unit. The sergeant that was to my direct right crawled all over me trying to get out of there. Luckily I got out. I was the last one out of the A unit. Bob, you want to tell them what happened on the B unit?
I don't know. I was on a different gun crew that time, yeah. But they did do a good job patching this thing up. I mean, it looks good. I was on a different gun crew than one that turned over, but
Oh, this guy was going to save us. Excuse me.
yeah.
Comes down, the A unit's buried.
Wait a minute. Let me. From what I understood, what I got from other people, there was a guy driving the B unit, and I'm not going to mention any names, but they say he was smoking a cigarette. He dropped it on the floor, and he bent over to pick it up. That's what caused all this.
Yeah, actually, I guess it veered off the road.
But anyway, the thing went over, and we were already up at the hard stand with our gun, and we got it over the radio that the gun had turned over and was burning. So we all jumped in trucks and jeeps and everything and went down there. And a good friend of mine was driving that A unit. When I come up there, all I seen was A unit covered in flames, you know. So I'm going to save my buddy. I grabbed a 5-pound fire extinguisher and I'm going to put it out. Well, I got about halfway up to it. They told me that everybody was out of it. So, it turned out good after all.
What happened is it had 100 gallons in there. We just filled up with fuel. And when it went over and all that heat started coming up there, it blew the fuel cap off. So luckily it didn't explode. It just burned. Where's that old Rodriguez?
Yeah. The only guy in the thing that got hurt, when it went over, the complete roof tore off of the B unit. It just laid down on the ground. The only guy in the thing get hurt ran out across the top of the roof of his B unit and run into a tree and cut his head here.
Almost knocked him clean cold out. Heidi, what's your best time?
Oh, well, the day the gun rolled over, I was about 100 yards behind with my second truck. And the ammo truck was following me. Of course, we just stopped and ran up there and tried to assist them any way we could. You know, I thought maybe a lot of people got hurt. We all got out safely except one. That one guy had a bumped head. It's a pretty big piece of equipment weighing 86 tons. And I don't know whether John mentioned it earlier. The A unit driver controlled both engines. They had headsets where they talked back and forth. Initially, all the B unit guy did was steer. He didn't brake or nothing. This guy in the front controlled the whole gun, and that's what made the rear driver was probably the most dangerous position to be in, because you're always looking down the barrel of the tube. That thing could tear that cab off real easy, but you'd have to have an A unit driver that was real good, knew how to turn and all this.
Good A unit driver. I always thought the B unit driver was better because you couldn't see it. You know, on a left-hand turn, you can see the A unit and the gun going around the corner, especially in these small German towns. But
on a right turn, he couldn't see anything.
On the right turn, you couldn't see anything. It's just all you could see was what in front, and the gun was over here, and you couldn't see all the way around.
That
So
was
you
what was always fun at night too, in blackout conditions. You know, you got your eye trained on that little spot up there, and all of a sudden it disappears.
Yeah, I tell you, night, any little rock, and you're ready to make a quick exit because, like I say, it only takes 19 degrees, and 19 degrees is probably about like that. And from then on, it's downhill. Hey, I remember one time we was going down a mountain. We was headed for Full or Bad Hurstville where we were border patrol, and there was ice on the road. And this time, let's see, you mentioned how to communicate with here, right?
With a hand signal.
Yeah. Well, our communications went out, so the only way I could signal this B-unit driver was hand signaling what gear I wanted. And we were doing about 50 miles an hour down that mountain on a nice, pretty nice highway, but it, still on the mountain. And I held out my hand for the B-unit to give me 2, which is second gear, in other words, gear down. And about that time, I went ahead and shifted down into second, and the gun started skidding. And fortunately, it was downhill. It was straight at this time. Usually they curve around. So, but I guess that's the most scared, I guess you could say the word is, the whole time, because he was late shifting. Therefore, when I shifted, all that weight coming downhill, that just made me skid. But he finally shifted and downshifted, and we got out of that little situation. But it was hairy. I never will forget it. Okay, what do you got?
Well, currently we're trying to get up a reunion here of this particular battery was in, or anybody that was in the battalion in Darmstadt, Germany from 1960 to 1963. Anybody happens to see this piece of film about the 280mm cannon, get a hold of John Gibson in Kennard, Texas.
Yeah.
I'd like to get a lot more people involved in this with pictures of it, if possible.
We'd like to make a reunion yearly right here, and whether they were in our outfit or other outfits, you know, we'd like for them to get in touch with someone, either Rick here at the museum or myself. In Kennard, Texas, it's Route 1, Box 41, John Gibson, or here at the National Museum. Just call here, and somebody will get you in touch with someone. Whether it was mid-50s to, say, up to 65, I think they rotated the units back from Germany. Anybody that knows anyone during that time period, I'd like for them to get in touch with us. We'd like to meet here every year. About that.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, bye. We said they got the bull there.
Unless you can find somewhere where it says where they made these at.
The nomenclature played in there.
Yes, this is where you jump down. That's something else we can say. One of the is the front.
Still got that one? They had this probably operational.
They brought every gun type out from 105, 155, 8-inch. Also, 280. I used to see this on the news. You know, you go to the movie on the newsreel, movie tone news.
Yeah.
and they'd have this mushroom in the background, flashing. Here's a little cannon. I used to see it when I was a kid. I got dreams about visiting it someday, but you know,
That's a long ways down.
yeah. Today it is. It wasn't
Yeah, you guys just
Yeah, we used to, they used to just jump off of it.
I did, originally, I started back in the 1930s, back in Ajax, surface there, but I was basing early in fishing, pumping people down forward, filling artillery at night, down here. And the second tour turned out about the rocket system.
They took this off here too, because when they jumped out, the driver jumped out, they across in here on the edge. They're sitting down there, fire stand. He would trip on it, so they finally took him off.
I can trip down some very dangerous
Yes.
poses there.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, laboratory, the gun came down.
It's especially dangerous at night. I mean, you know, the driver falls off and breaks his neck, and this everybody else is waiting for him to do his job. You know? Bob,
A lot of rounds.
think it'll fly?
Well, if you run on
I'd be interested to see if it runs.
Wouldn't that be neat? Go down I-25 and plank it.
this Canada, it's just a Saddam Hussein.
Say, come on, Albuquerque police, try to stop me.
Saddam Hussein. Huh?
Say, come on, Albuquerque police, try to stop me.
Yeah, yeah, we'll set this sucker down.
This thing was set up Hussein.
Right.
Put the Albuquerque name.
Yeah. Old Sadu.
Well, I sure appreciate you guys coming